They stripped you of everything, left you broken, alone, forgotten. They thought it was over for you. They should have made sure you stayed down. You remember the moment it all crumbled, the silence after the storm, the weight of betrayal, the sting of loss. It wasn't just one thing. It was everything. The people you trusted, gone. The support you thought was unshakable, shattered. And when you reached out for help, for anything to hold on to, all you found was emptiness. They turned their backs as if you never mattered. They laughed, whispered, carried on as if you were just a chapter in a book they were done reading. The world didn't pause for your suffering. It never does. Most people, they break under pressure. They let the darkness swallow them whole. They spend their days drowning in regret, mourning what they lost, what was taken, what should have been. But you learned something they never expected. See, when you lose everything, there's a moment of raw clarity. No more illusions, no more lies, just you, stripped down to nothing. And that's when you realize, when there's nothing left to lose, there's nothing left to fear. That's what they never considered. They thought taking everything from you would make you weak, but it did the opposite. It burned away every excuse, every distraction, every false sense of security. It forced you to face yourself, the real you. Not the version they wanted you to be. They thought rock bottom would crush you. But rock bottom, it became your foundation. They thought silence would break you. But silence became your training ground. They thought isolation would destroy you. But isolation gave you power they'll never understand. Because when you have nothing, you have no reason to hold back. No reason to hesitate. No reason to be afraid. You are not the same person they left behind. That version of you is dead, gone, buried under the weight of everything they did to you. And from the ashes, something else rose. Something they won't recognize. Something they won't be able to control. That's the part they'll regret the most. Not that they left, not that they hurt you, but that they failed to finish the job. They thought they were writing your ending. What they didn't realize, they were setting the stage for your rebirth. They didn't destroy you. They just freed you. And now, you stand in the silence they left behind. The dust settled. The echoes of their departure faded, and you were left with nothing but silence. At first, you waited. You told yourself that someone, anyone, would show up. That the ones who said they cared would notice your absence. That the world, so quick to take, would offer something back. But no one came. That's when the weight of reality slammed into you. No one is coming. No one cares. The silence was suffocating. It stretched out in endless nights where the walls felt tighter. The air heavier. The doubts louder. You replayed everything in your head over and over, searching for answers that didn't exist. Why did they leave? Why did no one check in? Why did the world just move on like you never mattered? And then a darker thought crept in. Maybe you didn't. That's how most people break. That's how they get trapped in their own misery, waiting for a savior who's never going to show up. They waste their years screaming into the void, hoping the echo sounds like help. But you did something different. You sat in that silence, faced the loneliness, let it sink into your bones. You didn't run from it. You didn't beg for escape. You let it do its worst. And then, you stood up anyway. See, that's the thing about silence. It's where real monsters are made. Most people get crushed under isolation. They let it consume them, leave them hollow. But you let it sharpen you. At first, your hands shook when you tried to pick up the pieces. Your steps were unsteady, your mind filled with doubt. But no one was there to catch you, no one to offer reassurance. So you learned to move anyway. No more waiting, no more hoping for someone to notice your struggle. The world already proved it wasn't watching, so you built yourself in the dark. Not for them, not for recognition, not for approval, for you. Because if no one is coming to save you, then you save yourself. They abandoned you, thinking you'd crumble. They thought the silence would swallow you whole, that the loneliness would break you. But all they did was give you the space to rebuild stronger. And in that silence, something stirred. The pain felt unbearable. The kind that grips your chest and makes breathing feel like a chore. The kind that keeps you awake at night, replaying every mistake, every betrayal, every loss. The kind that makes most people give up. But you didn't. Because somewhere in that darkness, you made a choice. See, pain is a weapon. Most people let it cut them down. They drown in it. Let it define them. Let it convince them that they'll never be anything more than their suffering. But the strong, they pick up that weapon and learn how to wield it. You stopped seeing pain as the enemy. You stopped running from it. You let it sharpen you. Every betrayal, fuel. Every rejection, fuel. Every moment they underestimated you, abandoned you, counted you out, fuel. You took the fire they meant to burn you with and let it forge you instead. This world is built to break the weak. It's designed to crush the ones who hesitate, who doubt, who crumble at the first sign of struggle. But you survived the breaking point. And now, you're something else entirely. You don't move like them anymore. You don't fear like them anymore. You don't carry the same weight of doubt because you already faced the worst and walked through it alive. That's why they won't understand you now. That's why they'll say you've changed, that you're different, because you are. Pain didn't kill you. It stripped away everything that wasn't real, until only the strongest parts of you remained. The version of you that once begged for love, the one that waited for approval, that softened your edges just to be accepted, that version is gone. Burned to ash in the fire they started. You don't move the same anymore. You don't hesitate. You don't explain yourself. You don't look for a place to fit in, because now you own your space. They don't recognize you, and they shouldn't, because the person they left behind is a ghost. And what stands in their place now? Something else entirely. See, they expected you to crawl back, to need them, to shrink yourself in the hopes of being welcomed again. But you didn't. You walked away and never looked back. And now, they don't know what to do with you. They whisper that you've changed as if that's an insult, as if you should be ashamed of the fact that you grew teeth in the dark. They call you cold, ruthless, unrecognizable. And maybe they're right. Because when they took everything from you, they also took the part of you that was weak. No more seeking approval. No more waiting for permission. They created something they can't control. And now, they regret it. But regret didn't come first. They laughed. They mocked you when you were down. Whispered about how you wouldn't make it back, how you were finished. They pitied you. They thought it was over. But something changed. It was small, a shift, a silence. You weren't the same desperate, broken soul they left behind. You weren't chasing their validation anymore. You weren't explaining yourself. And that's when they started watching. Because you weren't just surviving, you were rising. And now, they don't laugh anymore. They see it in your eyes, the hunger, the focus, the calm, unstoppable force you've become. It scares them. They don't say it out loud, but you can feel it, the uncertainty, the unease. They whisper now. How do they come back from that? What if they haven't forgotten? What if they're planning something? But the truth is, you don't need revenge. They expected rage, retaliation. They expected you to seek them out, to prove something. But you don't waste time on people beneath you. You're too busy winning. And that haunts them more than anything. Because now, the ones who doubted you, the ones who left, who laughed, who counted you out, they can only watch. They had their chance to stand beside you. Now, they'll spend the rest of their lives watching, silent, bitter, powerless. They whisper, they regret, but they don't dare step in your way because something about you has changed. Something they don't understand. Something they fear. You don't react like you used to. You don't hesitate. You don't look back. And that's terrifying. Why? Because they can't control you anymore. They can't use your past against you. You already survived it. They can't break you. You already rebuilt yourself from nothing. They can't make you afraid because you've already faced the worst and walked through it. And when a person has nothing left to fear, they become unstoppable. See, most people live in chains they put on themselves. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. You broke those chains. You don't fear failure. You've already failed and come back stronger. You don't fear judgment. You've been judged, abandoned, doubted, and it only made you sharper. You don't fear loss, because everything you lost was replaced with something better. Now you move differently. There's no hesitation in your steps, no uncertainty in your choices. You've embraced the one thing that most people run from. The realization that when you have nothing to lose, you are the most dangerous kind of person. Because what can they take from you now? What can they hold over you? Nothing. And that's why they're afraid. Because they created something they can't stop. A force that doesn't bow, doesn't break, doesn't need anyone's permission. You're not just strong. You're untouchable. And that's the last thing they ever wanted. They wanted you broken, dependent, always looking over your shoulder. But now, you don't look back. They wanted you trapped in anger, stuck in the past, wasting your energy on revenge. But you're smarter than that. You see the game for what it is, and you refuse to play. The best revenge? It's not destruction. It's freedom. You don't chase approval. You don't seek validation. You don't waste a second thinking about those who once abandoned you. They lost their power over you the moment you stopped needing them. See, most people think power comes from control. Controlling others, controlling opinions, controlling outcomes. But real power, it comes from letting go. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop proving yourself, when you stop caring about the noise, that's when you become untouchable. They expect you to be bitter. They expect you to come back screaming, demanding payback. But you've already won. Not because you got even, not because you made them suffer, but because you moved on. And that's what haunts them the most. They see you now, rising, thriving, free, and they realize something painful. They never had control over you. They thought they did when they doubted you, when they left you, when they laughed. But all they did was light a fire they could never put out. Because you're not just stronger, you're untouchable, unstoppable, unchained. They thought they buried you. They didn't realize they planted a legend, one they'll never understand. They will never understand how you kept breathing when life tried to suffocate you. How you kept walking when your legs were shattered. How you kept fighting when every odd was stacked against you. They saw you as a lost cause, a broken thing, something they could walk away from without regret. And yet, here you are, rising from the ashes, standing where they swore you would never stand again. And now, they're silent. They can't admit they were wrong. They can't acknowledge your strength, because that would mean facing the truth. They underestimated you. But you don't need their validation. You don't need apologies. You don't need closure. You don't need them to recognize what they lost, because you already won. Not in their eyes, but in your own. That's the thing about real strength. It doesn't come from their approval. It doesn't come from proving them wrong. It comes from knowing, deep down, that you never needed them in the first place. They took everything from you, your time, your trust, your kindness. And yet you still came back stronger. You didn't break. You didn't fade. You evolved. They thought they wrote your ending. But this was just your beginning.